medicated me on amitriptyline. I was labelled in my file as being manipulative. There's like a good girl and a bad girl.
Whoa. At the age of 9?
Yep.
Welcome to another episode of Mek Sense with Melzy, where we make sense of the world we live in through real culture conversations. So I've got an amazing guest with me. She's a specialist in ADHD and autism. She's CEO and founder of Neuro by Nature. Not naughty by nature, Neuro by Nature. She's a counsellor. Please welcome my guest, Claire.
Hi, Mel.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
How's it going?
It's good,
You're looking all colourful today. I thought I'd match the swag.
Yeah, let's go for colour.
Colour. So let's get straight into it. What made you set up Neuro by Nature?
Okay, so I trained to become a counsellor. It's amazing that it took training to become a counsellor to actually uncover my true identity as a neurodivergent person, having had it missed through childhood, teenagehood, young adulthood.
Can you break down what actually is ADHD?
ADHD, known as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is it's a neurological condition rather than a mental health condition. So we don't treat it as a mental health condition. Presentations are often different in men and women, and more research is being done now regarding women. So it's like a whole cluster of what, we could call symptoms, from having the hyperactivity, hyperfocus, something called RSD, which actually isn't in the DSM-5, but that's sensitivity to rejection, things like burnout. It's almost like a whole different neurotype, which makes us different kind of people, if you like.
Okay, so when you talk about neurodivergent, did I say it right?
Yeah, that's it.
When you talk about neurodivergent, what does that look like? What's underneath that umbrella?
Okay, so with neurodivergent, it encompasses a whole heap of things. We're looking at ADHD, autism, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, dyslexia.
Right.
And some people will also include things like personality disorders, bipolar. The umbrella is huge, and it basically means not typical.
Right.
So not in the same way that we would see a so-called typical neurotype.
Right.
Deviant, if you like.
Right, okay. And then in terms of like your personal experience, at what point did you realise you had ADHD? Because I know you went through something at the age of 9.
Yeah.
I don't want to say you were sectioned, but it was a form of sectioning.
Yeah.
Could you talk me through that experience and what that was like for you?
Yeah. So when I was 9, I got put into a place which is technically it was called a home for juvenile delinquents.
Okay.
And that was based on poor behaviour. At that moment in my life, they actually diagnosed me with clinical depression and medicated me on amitriptyline.
Whoa. At the age of 9?
Yep. I have the file. You can do the subject access request. I have my file on everything that occurred when I was there.
What led you to that place of being institutionalised, would you say?
Yeah. So family, that's where it starts. It started at home, being raised with my mum, 2 sisters and a stepdad, one of my sister's dads. I think at the point when my mum divorced, just before I was 9, a lot of things were falling out of place, but also falling into place.
Right.
My perspective of it is that I became the black sheep of the family.
Okay.
In therapy, we say that behaviour communicates a need. So clearly that need wasn't being met, and, it affected my behaviour, my identity regarding race, relationships as well. So apparently I didn't get on with one of my sisters. Now looking through a neurodivergent lens, that's because she was triggering.
Right, okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. I did stuff at school. I did gymnastics. I was reprimanded because I'd do cartwheels down the corridor.
Okay.
Well,
You're
I
a
do
child.
gymnastics, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So everything was being put into behaviour brackets, if you like. I'm poorly behaved. Highly intelligent, got moved up a year because the work in the classes I was in wasn't pushing me enough.
Right,
So they moved me up a year.
right.
And then, behaviour wise, our dog ran away from home. So I ran away from school to look for it. But I was naughty because I
Right.
left school, I mean, don't get me wrong, I wasn't an angel,
You was a bad girl. You
Yeah.
were a bad girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And in the midst of racism, constant racism, I was raised in Cambridge. So I was the only black face at school. I would have to run home. I just became known as a troublemaker. But everything I was doing was in my defence or in defence of somebody else. There was reasoning. I can remember, for example, my mum, I went to the shop and I got the wrong thing. And my mum sent me to bed and that. And then I climbed out of my bedroom window and ran back to the shop to buy it. That was naughty. But in my mind, it wasn't.
It's putting it right.
Yes. Yes. So that, and it just stuck, and all my life I sat there thinking, but I wasn't naughty. I can't think of something. I mean, I did hang my sister out the bedroom window as well.
Whoa,
you
Claire.
know.
Whoa, you could have caught a case. Okay.
Yeah. And I did do really stupid things like, I don't know, like throwing things over the neighbour's fence. And I did do what I would say was childish, but not out of the realms of childhood.
Right.
But I was naughty. And because of that, I had to go away for 3 months.
How did we get from being a bit naughty, having some behavioural issues, to you're going away for 3 months?
I had, we were going through, my mum was going through divorce. It was like pandemic then in the 80s. Every other person was going through divorce.
Right.
And, there were other things going on in the background, which I now understand to have been grooming by my head teacher. And obviously, you're a man of power, you can orchestrate these things. So the best way to orchestrate it is to use my behaviour against me. I had a fight with my head teacher at 9. And again, all of this stuff, the viewers and that are going to think, well, you were naughty. If someone had asked me, why did you do these things, I could have told you why, if that makes sense. I wasn't being naughty just for the sake of it. So fighting my head teacher was my fear response based on the fact I believed he was grooming somebody else in the school.
Okay.
So a little after that, we had to have family therapy. And that's where I learnt poetry. So my way of getting it out was to write poems for the psychiatrist. And then to sit there with my mum and my sisters feeling othered all the time. It's your fault that we're here. It's your fault. You're the naughty. If you could just behave. Why don't you love your sister? Why aren't you nice to your sister? You're nice to one, but not the other. It was the next thing I know, I am being told that I'm actually now going to stay in this place. So I'm removed from my family and placed in what I can only describe as being like a children's home. And that was with children that are naughty. These were naughty children.
What would you say would be the difference between you and them?
It would be stuff like boys that would come and kick you or spit at you for no reason.
Right.
Or touch you inappropriately, or like, I don't know, not stopping certain behaviours. I mean, in hindsight, who knows, maybe they had some form of neurodivergence. That would be picked up in boys, but it wouldn't be picked up in girls.
Okay.
I was labelled in my file as being manipulative. There's like a good girl and a bad girl.
At 9?
Yeah. This was the language that was used. She likes to manipulate. And I got on better with adults than I did with children. Reading that, because I only got that file in maybe 2018. And it still haunts me when I pick it up,
Of course, of course. like, I'm not hearing anything really, 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 really bad.
No.
Just a child that maybe can't keep still, or do you get what I'm
Yeah,
saying to you?
yeah.
Like, I'm not sure how the hanging the sister out the window thing went, but you know what I mean? Like, we've
Yeah.
all rough played with our siblings
Yeah.
and stuff like that as normal. So to then be able to then being taken away from your family for 3 months, how did that feel walking into those doors for the first time?
Well,
Especially as, like, you know, someone who's biracial.
yeah. Yeah. It was. I put it down to race. I actually thought that the problem was the colour of my skin. Because, I mean, I guess we have to look at the fact as well that I was raised in a white family. So I was already othered.
Right.
And there was lack of understanding. I was in a white school. So again, I was already othered. You know, if I fidget, if I don't understand, I don't know how to do maths or this or that, I'm already being othered. When I went to this place, you know, it was so traumatic that it's only been this year that I've had EMDR to help me navigate the memory.
What's an MDR?
EMDR. So it's
EMDR.
eye movement, rapid desensitivity kind of thing. So it's a way of, it's a specific counselling method which helps you to put into balance trauma.
Okay.
So one of the memories I had to work on was being left at this home.
Okay.
And it's only now that I can talk about it without going,
Yeah, of course.
you know.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, no, it was traumatic to be in this place and your mum walks off with the rest of your family and the door handles are at the top of the door. So you cannot
Get
leave,
out.
you know.
Wow.
And to see my mum going and being, in my mind, willing to leave me there, and I wouldn't see her till the weekend, it was like I couldn't understand what I'd done wrong. Because when we're talking about neurodivergence, this is me. I'm in my head, you know. I haven't done anything that warrants being here.
What was that experience like for you actually being in that care home?
Some things were positive, you know, like I got to learn how to swim, you know, we stayed on a farm, we had an orchard. There was one particular woman I was really fond of that would make me hot chocolate every night, you know, so there were those things. But being there, I don't know how big the impact was while I was there, but having been there kind of scarred me, I feel, in my family for life.
Right.
Because I was then known by my wider family. Oh, Claire, the naughty one.
Yeah, the one that got sent away.
Yeah. With, you know, constant, you know, hope you're behaving yourself. I am behaving myself, you know. I guess I was a sensitive child. You know, when I look back now, I can see that I was different, but that needed nurturing, not punishing.
Right.
You know, that needed a parent to take charge.
And support you through that process and talk you through that process and kind of
Yeah.
explain. But I feel like the generation of parenting back then compared to now is like, we're more like soft parenting.
Yeah.
Whereas back in the day, it's like put up short.
Yeah.
You're being naughty. That's where you go. That's what you do.
Yeah.
There's no kind of like communication as to how that was. Like, that's such an unfortunate thing to go through.
Yeah.
To be sent away at the age of 9 away from your parents.
Yeah.
And nothing you've said to me is like that deep.
No.
To do that.
Nope. You know, I done worse stuff, I guess, as I got older. That would probably warrant some kind of slap on the wrist than that.
Yeah.
I mean, my mum was 15 when she had me.
Right.
And she's late diagnosed ADHD in her
Okay.
60s. So I guess I also have to look at it from her perspective as well. You know, was she struggling herself? As we do as neurodivergent parents of neurodivergent children. But the damage is done. I know that sounds really hard, but that damage has been done because maybe she wasn't supported meant I wasn't supported. And yeah, to be medicated and diagnosed with clinical depression at 9 doesn't often happen.
That's crazy, because how did that medication affect you? Do you remember? Like, I understand it might work for other people, but there's no other healthy options. Do you get what I mean? Even when we had COVID, get the jab.
Yeah.
Because the jab's going to save you.
Oh, yeah.
But he didn't.
No.
There was never a line in there that said, go to the gym or go outside and run for a minute or have your fresh fruit and veg or get your vitamins. It was all get the COVID jab, get the COVID
Yeah.
jab, get the COVID jab. So I think when someone, I'm not that I'm not against medicine,
Yeah.
but I'm not the person that's going to take a paracetamol if I've got a headache.
Yeah.
I'm going to drink a bottle of water first,
Yeah.
have something to eat,
Yeah.
then see how I feel. Because no matter how you look at it, whether you're getting medications from the doctor or medications on the road, it's still all drugs that you can be addicted to.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
It's just as bad as something else that you might take on the road.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
I
there's
agree.
loads of people that might get addicted to paracetamols or addicted to antidepressants or and it's that whole thing of you've almost got to have the clearest, purest possible system in order to understand what the root of the problem is.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. You know, you're right, because what we do is we numb our system and then we become detached from it. You know.
Yeah. So like taking medication at such a young age, did that affect you growing up?
I don't know how long I was on it for. I know that, you know, from reading the notes, I don't think it made much difference. So it may have made me sleep better, but there was no difference. It didn't transform me into being good, probably because I was never naughty, particularly in the first place. And everything that was in this file pretty much said and screamed, this girl is autistic and has ADHD. I could have been diagnosed then, but instead I went through a lifetime of so many diagnoses that you wouldn't know where one started and one ended. Yeah, and some of those diagnoses are like hard to understand why you would suddenly say, oh,
That about me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you take it because it's professional.
Yeah, where sometimes you might need a second, third opinion.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't always go from what the first thing
Yeah.
someone says.
Yeah.
We never book the first restaurant that we see.
True.
We look at a variety.
True.
Then
True.
make the decision.
Yeah.
But I think we do put a lot of trust in the doctors, and there's amazing doctors out there that
Yeah.
will really diagnose you correctly. But clearly, there's something in the air around ADHD and naughty behaviour.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? And
Yeah.
also maybe the black community as well, because it's like, especially with the young boys now, we had a conversation before. You know, some of them have neurodivergent issues, but they're not really picked up. They're not really getting the support that they possibly need. And it's difficult to hear because back a day, you were just sent away.
Yeah.
You're not normal.
Yeah.
You're not like everybody else.
Yeah.
So you need to be removed from the house. Whereas I feel like now we're in a time where we're looking at neurodivergent a little bit more. We're seeing people's patterns of behaviour and starting to see that, okay, what can I do to improve that?
Yeah. No, I agree.
At what point did you realise as an individual you had ADHD?
Do you know, I don't think I've ever thought I didn't have it. As in, I've always thought there was something different about me compared to how my friends or family would describe things. I'd think, well, I don't see things like that. You know, that's not right. What are you on about? So I think I always knew there was a something. But I think it wasn't until maybe when I was at college and things were being said. And I was like, and, you know, one person at college had mentioned something and I was like, okay, yeah, that kind of fits when I go back and look it up. I understand it now. And then ADHD became more, I don't know, prominent's the right word.
Yeah.
But then I was able to say, oh my goodness, there's other people like me that are talking openly instead of hiding in shame because, you know, I do feel a lot of shame about certain things. You
There's
know,
a stigma around autism and ADHD.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, she's ADHD, yeah, she's not going to be able to sit there quietly.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, she's autistic, she's not going to be able to do this and that. I do think
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a stigma surrounding it. Do you know what I mean?
oh, there is. I mean, my son doesn't even want to be assessed. You know, and yet you can be the parent and you can look to the son and you can think, definitely. But it's that same stigma growing up in the 80s. You know, nobody wanted to be associated with the special children.
Yeah.
You know, how it was seen.
Even mental health.
Yeah.
it was like, and if we go further back than
Yeah.
that, didn't they used to like make fun of people that had mental health and throw fruit
Yeah.
and stuff at them? And
Yeah.
it was like a performance. It was a show where, oh, this person's crazy,
Yeah.
this person's spiritual, let's hang them, let's...
Put them in asylums, you know. You and I would have been classified as witches, just because you're sensitive, you know. And in all fairness, black females really did bear the brunt of the mental health, stereotypes for, certain conditions. And obviously black men with schizophrenia.
Yeah.
People grew up thinking only black men get schizophrenia.
Wow.
You know.
Wow. For the audience that don't understand ADHD triggers or don't understand the symptoms of ADHD, could you break down a little bit what the symptoms look like?
For me, and I can only I say it not in like a patronising way when I say, oh, for me, it's literally because I think everybody will present differently, you know. And for me, it is not being able to concentrate, classically. Fidgeting, which I'm doing well with now.
I know, right?
I'm doing well with now, but that isn't me. This is part of why things are hard to diagnose, because you see me sat here now, you wouldn't think, particularly ADHD. That's because I've learned how to conform to given situations. If this was my couch and I was at home, my legs will be over the back, I'll be upside down.
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah,
I do that.
Yes,
legs sprawl open.
That's it.
Yeah.
Fling myself on the floor, dance in the kitchen, and then it would be stuff like, some people will get a song stuck in their head when they go to sleep. I will get a whole freaking radio station. I'm literally switching up the tunes. My sleep is terrible. I sleep maybe 3 hours.
Wow.
I do not sleep.
Is overthinking a symptom?
Yeah. Overthinking can be a symptom as well. Because the way that we've been brought up, we have to look at so many different, overthinking as much as impulsivity.
Okay.
So impulsivity might look like me last week, Tuesday night, I'm saying to the kids, right, we're going to Blackpool tomorrow. Are we? Yep, that's it. I've made up my mind, Or I bought 4 Waltzer cars once, randomly, not knowing how big they were. Yeah, I'll have the 4 Waltzer cars. They'll make good furniture, So you've got impulsivity and you've got overthinking. Relationships can be difficult.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so in relationships, it can be... We can get, what I said before, like the rejection sensitivity. If we feel that we're being rejected, we can, it'll bring up a whole emotional, maybe we're seen as being emotional, sensitive, argumentative, because we feel rejected. So we're trying to cling on to something. We can be seen as clingy. I struggle with relationships. I haven't had a relationship for maybe 12 years.
Wow.
I struggle with sharing a bed. I struggle with sharing space.
Yeah. I mean, child, I'll be sprawled out on that bed, man. You need to sleep somewhere else, child. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah,
I get
and
that.
that would be my perfect life if I was with someone. Let's have separate bedrooms. Perfect. But you have to understand that people don't say this. People don't say it because we still try and conform with what we think it should be. I go to the shops and I can become overstimulated. It's too much. So as much as we can move around and appear to be so energetic in that, put us in an overloaded situation and it's too much. It can make me depressed. It can make me feel sick. I mean, obviously my ADHD combines with autism. So it's hard to untangle.
Right. Right. Like with me, with overthinking, like I'm just naturally like an overthinker, but I can go from like one thought. I could be thinking about cheesecake and then I'm thinking about when's Rihanna bringing out her next album. Then I'll go straight to, oh my gosh, shit, I've got to go wash up today. Then I'll go to, right, but what do I really need to do now? So I probably have an issue with focus. So I've just started having some lion's mane.
Okay.
Some vitamins.
Yeah.
So I heard that helps with your focus.
Okay, yes.
Big up Nutrition Geeks.
Yeah.
If you want to sponsor, let a sister know. sometimes I'll start cleaning in this room. I can't believe I'm saying this on my podcast. I'm being open and transparent with y'all. I'm a bit OCD, so I like things to be really, really tidy, like a certain way. But then if I'm getting ready, everything can be a mess in 3.5 seconds. And then I'll start tidying one room, and then I'll go to the next room and start tidying that room. Or then sometimes I need to start my day by cleaning.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's ADHD.
No, there are things because, like, we can reframe OCD, for example, as being something that's repetitive.
Yeah.
It's something that gives you structure. It's something where you're using your energy, that energy that you're storing up. We need an outlet. Chopping and changing, not staying on task, and yet feeling like you're getting so much done.
But you ain't getting shit done.
No.
You ain't getting shit done.
Yeah.
Nothing. And this is why I think for me now, I probably write more as well. Write down what I need to do in the day and try and tick it off.
Right. See, I'm going to throw that out the window.
Go on then.
Yeah. See, I don't do that. I can't look at a list without it causing me the most extreme anxiety.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. If I see what I have to do, I will just go into fawn mode. I'll be like, oh my goodness, that's too much. I can't do it. So I do, like if I work with a client now, what I'd say to them is we don't do lists. What we do is we do a ta-da list.
Okay.
So anything you do, you write down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then it's like a flip side, isn't it?
Yeah, because then you see what you actually have done. So I did a to-do list once, and all I did was sit there and add to it. Everything I did that wasn't on the list, I was putting on. And I was like, well, hold on a minute. Look at what I've achieved. I may not have done the things that I should have done, but the things that I did do needed doing. And I did them. I bossed it, you know.
That's quite interesting. So kind of like what other things would you say can help with ADHD? I heard gym's one.
Yeah.
Because gym gives me a lot of focus these days.
Yeah, any kind of physical exercise. I went to something the other day called Movement is Medicine, and it was just somatic stuff, and it was to rave music. And yeah, that release, because they do have a connection with dopamine, so the stuff that makes you feel good, do.
Right, okay.
So if gym's your thing, do the gym. If walking or being in nature's your thing, do those things that help to release those feel-good hormones.
Yeah.
And tire you out as well, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that when by the time you get to your bed now, you're actually ready to sleep.
Yeah. So, I mean, back in the day, we would say about children, for example, calm them down before bed. If you're working with an ADHD child, get them pumped up, so their bodies will naturally deplete.
Interesting.
Yeah, if they're not ready to be calm, get them jumping on the bed, get them rolling on the floor, get them to tire themselves out, get them running around the block.
Yeah. So they've got that energy burn
Yeah.
out. I've heard there's been some connections to CBD and ADHD kids. What's that about?
But when we're looking at anything like that, we just have to be mindful that I think there's more research that's being done to say that our actual, nervous systems are more sensitive.
Okay.
So CBD helps with a plethora of things, know, and I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't help, regarding ADHD and stuff. I can't take it because I'm too sensitive to it.
Right.
I wish I could.
I
wish it was something that I could take because I have heard it to be beneficial.
So what other things are beneficial for ADHD?
It's actually getting those accommodations.
Really?
I know, yeah, you can get medications, but medications are they're just short term.
Right.
So they're not like how you would take antidepressants, say. So they are short term. So you'd take one, you'd feel the peak, you'd get clarity, your executive function would help you to get on with your day without getting distracted and forgetful and things like that. But with ADHD, you still get mental health issues. You will still get depression. You will still get anxiety. You'll get those things just from being a human.
Right.
When you've got ADHD, when you're autistic, those things are just amplified.
Right. Okay. Do you think medication works for ADHD?
I haven't taken it, but I've heard, and I hear, in all fairness, different from different people. Some people, like my mum, she takes it. She thinks it's fantastic.
Right.
You know, she can focus. She explains to me how if they go somewhere busy like a pub, the noise drowns out, so she's not listening to everyone else's conversations. And like also we get this kind of inertia, they call it, which is a kind of paralysis where I might sit here and think I've got loads to do and I don't move. Oh yes.
Talk about it, Claire. Do you know how many times I find it really difficult to stay still.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been like that since school.
Yeah.
University was a lot better because we had conversations. It was more interactive. I did performing arts. So I'm definitely supposed to be in the creative industry because that's what worked really well for me. But doing GCSE English, maths, I just couldn't. I was the troublesome child at school.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And they locked me up.
They should have locked me up. Really? I'm the one that should have been locked up. So yeah, I was troublesome at school as well. But if now I look back, the education system was a bit too rigid for me. And I needed someone to sit with me to talk through certain things because certain things didn't make sense. So I was already kind of tapping out at different parts in school. But then it took the right teacher to sit down and be like, listen, you need your English, you need your maths, you need to da-da-da-da-da. But yeah, I was called trouble I get called trouble till this day.
Yeah.
And I'm actually not a troublemaker.
Yeah. And when you look back at it though, it's not nice. You probably would have been called troublemaker, lazy, rude, you know, butting in all the time, you know. So, and all those negative things become a package. I got an award in secondary school.
Congratulations, Claire.
Well, I don't know what I got it for. It was Change for the Better. To this day, I still do not know how I changed for the better to deserve an award that called me Change for the Better.
You may have changed for the better.
Well, I don't know. That year, I probably set the smoke alarms off with my hairbrush. That's when I started being naughty.
Right, okay.
You know, to be honest, at secondary school, I did naughty things, but I was chasing dopamine then. There wasn't a reason. Primary school, there was reasoning behind my behaviour. Secondary school, I wanted excitement. I wanted to know what that fire alarm would sound like if I hit it with my brush.
Wow.
And then tell the teacher, I was brushing my hair, sorry, it was an accident. So they were like, okay, no worries, it was an accident. And in my head, I'm like, oh, yes.
What's this idea with dopamines and excitement? And there's something in me in terms of like, okay, so what's next? I've done that now.
Yeah.
I've took that off my box. Okay, so what do I need to do next?
Same.
Are those like signs of ADHD or ambition?
Well,
or a bit of both?
You could say ADHD people are ambitious. You know, some of the greatest people in the world have some kind of neurodivergence, you know. Can't think of people off the top of my head. I know there's quite a few, and there's some names that I don't really rate, so I wouldn't even mention them. You know, so I'm like, you can stay in the bin. But no, it is. I couldn't tell you. I've never had a job that lasted longer than 2 years.
Me too!
No.
Claire! Me too! OMG!
Yeah. You'll find most of us like that. Yeah.
Like, I get to 2 years at a job and I'm like, okay, so what's next? How am I going to develop? Is my manager going to develop me? What's going to be the next challenge? Like, that's crazy. I must be on the spectrum.
Yeah. 6 months honeymoon period. You watch me move like I am like Flash. And everybody thinks you're fantastic. Look at everything you've done. Brilliant, brilliant. Pat on the back, pat on the back. And then it's like, oh, I'm bored now.
Yeah.
And then I just walk through treacle. I actually worked in a school. I can't believe I'm going to say this on a podcast, but I told the head teacher right before she demoted me, I'm bored. I said, I used to work for children's services and I felt stressed. And I said, this job, I'm not even, you know, sweating. I do not feel stressed. I'm bored. You need to give me more to do. Wasn't the right way of putting it, but this is the way that, you know, your mouth and brain, my mouth and brain don't think at the right time. That was true. I was understimulated. Give me more to do.
That's interesting because I do think that level of understimulated is what can you have you tapped out of focus.
Yeah.
real quick.
You know, I don't know if you know much about hyperfocus as well, where you go down that rabbit hole and that rabbit hole becomes your life. That's something that comes up a lot with ADHD brains, where, I don't know, you might talk to me, you mentioned Rihanna earlier on, and you said about her yeah, you might then search online and really try and home in and find out when she is, if she is, what it's called, what she's wearing, yada, yada, yada. And that becomes your focus when you should be doing something else, but you're really enjoying researching this little bit of information until you find the answers you need.
I will literally search for a holiday 10,000 times. I'll look at the hotel, then I'll look at somewhere else to get it cheaper, someone else to get it cheaper. Then I'll work out if I book flights and this separately, will that be cheaper? Then I'll go back to the original booking. Is there a level of indecisiveness with ADHD?
Hugely, but it comes down to the indecision and then obviously research. So this is the difference when you say things like this between what you experience and when people say we're all on the spectrum. That other person that may be on the spectrum isn't spending 6 months looking for blinds.
Right.
Do you see the difference? So maybe they'll say, yeah, I've researched them and I sat there. Oh, it took me a couple of days and I've done it. 6 months. And that would be standard for someone presenting with ADHD.
That's crazy.
You know. Sometimes we try and, how do I put this? Perform more, i.e. be more organised because we're aware of our weaknesses. So if I don't organise now, it's all going to hit the fan.
Right.
That fear of almost showing that, I don't mean to say that I'm incapable, but showing that I can be organised. Yes, yeah, exactly that. And again, that's me as much as you. You know, I have to be organised. I pat myself on the back when I achieve stuff. I actively go up to my children and say, "Can you pat me on the back, please?" Why, Mum? I just phoned BT. Because it's such a big task, you know, and it's taken me a lot of organisation, a lot of mental preparation. The same as, well, we go to Blackpool the other day. I'm doing what you're doing now. Pack up what I needed, pack my Crocs, pack my son's Crocs, get there, and I've only packed one Croc of mine. You know, and it's like, even when I try and be organised, there'll always be one thing out of place.
Yeah. Or accepting that something can be out of place.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very much like particular in the way I do things. So things have to be done in the right way.
Yeah.
But as I've got older, I've realised not everybody's like that. Not everybody's thinking about this when they're organising a party. Yeah. Some people just want to turn up on the day and roll with the punches and deal with the stress then. Whereas I'm preempting, I don't want to be stressed at the party. I want to have a good time.
Yeah.
But I think that's a positive thing, whether it's ADHD or not.
It's positive, but it depends how long you keep that rumination going. You know, if you're thinking about it like a month in advance, then that's probably too much.
Too much, but a week.
You know, a week's good.
Fine.
You know, a week's all right, yeah. I don't want things to go wrong as well because I don't know I can put them right. I don't know that I've got the tools to put them right. So I want things to go as smooth as much. Yeah, as much as I can control, I will control. Kind of thing.
But something could go wrong.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Because things go wrong all the time in life.
Yeah.
But there's an extra level of pressure of, for me anyway, getting it right the first time.
Yeah.
I want to get it right the first time.
Yeah.
Forget the fuck ups. I want to get it right the first time.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you've got to be a little bit more open and not as much as a control freak, and let things sink sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's where you build character. You don't build as much character getting it right all the time.
True.
So sometimes you have to be able to navigate life in different ways, really, don't you? Yeah. So in terms of like neuro by nature, what services do you actually offer? And have you got any success stories where people have actually changed and most improved person on your books?
No, so I mean, I do counselling, you know, per se, but the counselling I do is in a way that I wanted for me.
Okay.
So, yeah, going back actually to that story, I've been in and out. I was in and out of different mental not facilities, but different therapists, different therapy types. At 12, I knew I wanted to be a psychiatrist or a solicitor. That was the dream. Going in and out and being treated for a whole manner of things. I was like, no, this isn't what I want. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get my piece of paper. And then I'm going to practice how I want therapy. I mean, at the moment I'm working online, but when I do face to face, I didn't want to be sat in a beige room. If I want to roll on the floor, I'm going to roll on the floor. Not me, but, you know, the client, If they want to put their feet on the chair, they could put their feet on the... If they wanted a drink, I wanted to take away all the big words and all the barriers.
Create a safe space.
Yeah, yeah. And a space where you can be you. Instead of me, you know, like when I was little, oh, would you put your feet on the table at home? Yeah. You know, well, you can't do it here. You know, I wanted to create something that was engaging and positive, which isn't the same as the therapy I've had. So, you know, that's what I do. I work with predominantly neurodivergent people, but I work with anybody, you know. And the essence of what I do has to be empowerment and acceptance, you know. Crap happens to us all. But it's where do we go from here?
Yeah, how do we deal with it? How do we navigate it?
Yeah, yeah. And I do work with people to help them navigate autism, ADHD and things. But you have to remember that when we are autistic and ADHD, we still, you know, my belief is that we process trauma and things differently. Because we're more sensitive and because we see things differently. So a neurotypical person could, for want of a better word, have a car accident, go to therapy. Maybe they could have CBT and navigate it. You know, I'm not belittling or minimising neurotypical people here. But a neurodivergent person, there may be a whole lot more that needs to be looked at. So everything from the fact that, they broke their routines. They're worried that the car crashed because one of their routines was out of sync. Right. You know, they were wearing the wrong clothes. The smell hasn't left them. The visual hasn't left them. The taste. So
it's more about your senses, all senses.
Yes. Yeah.
That play a part in that.
Yeah.
Tell us about your success story.
Yeah. It's actually working with parents.
Wow.
So in a almost non-counselling way and taking some of the things that I've done with my son and helping other parents navigate their neurodivergent children to help them not just be educated in what that neurodivergence is, but so they can provide those tools. Because you have to remember, an autistic ADHD child will become an autistic ADHD adult. They need to know how to advocate for themselves. You know, they need the parents' support. So I think the most successful things I have done have been liaising with other parents.
I love that. And how is that important? Why do you think it's important to liaise more with parents?
Because parents are going to be a consistent in that child's life over school, over therapy, over the medical signs. Right. You are the one that can give your child that confidence to be able to say, I don't know, could you turn the light down a bit? So they don't feel wrong. It starts at home, you know. So, for example, with my son, maybe he wants to eat lunch at breakfast time. Really, is it a big deal? It's the same amount of food. He can have his breakfast at lunchtime. He's 13. As long it's all the same. Does it really matter?
Yeah. Well, me know all in Caribbean that all have a rice and peas and a chicken in a morning. So, but everybody's different.
Yeah. We don't necessarily have a fruit bowl at home. We eat more vegetables.
Okay.
So I'll have raw vegetables. I'll have my mange too. I'll have my baby. Yeah, because who says it has to be a fruit bowl? It could be a vegetable bowl. It could be fruit and vegetables in a bowl for you to pick out.
And it's almost kind of like coming out of that norm that like not everybody is that way inclined.
Yeah.
Like, and it's probably more like thinking outside of the box and almost accepting that to a certain extent. And I know so many young people get misdiagnosed or don't get diagnosed. They're just blamed as naughty. Yeah. Kicked out of school. Yeah. Nowhere to go. When they might needed a bigger piece of paper, bigger font. They might needed a one-to-one with them. They might needed 10 minutes out of that lesson to calm down because they're overstimulated.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's really everybody's individual. And I do think it's so important with the kids that we identify what those issues are early on so that they know how to support it. So that when they're going to college, they can have a conversation with their tutor and say, you know what, I have ADHD or I have autism. I might need to take 10 minutes out of each lesson just to kind of take a deep breath. Do you know what I mean? And then come back focused. Do you think some people use ADHD and autism as an excuse for their behaviour?
Do you know what? Like on what you were saying before, exactly that, you know, I'm like clapping in the background. You know, what you're saying stands exactly for what I stand for, giving people the tools to be able to advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
That's where it's empowering.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I had to learn through therapy. As far as ADHD and autism being an excuse, I mean, I guess there's a couple of schools of thought. I guess it's up to how that excuse is being perceived. Because what could look like an excuse to someone else is actually a reasoning. You know, that child that needs to go to the toilet constantly, or even as an adult that needs to go to the toilet constantly, you know, people could say, oh, you're just making an excuse, you know.
My bladder needs to be emptied when it needs to be emptied.
You know, yeah. Or they need that time out. That's their way of, instead of me saying to you, oh, could I have a time out? I might say, could I go to the toilet? Because that's seen more polite
And
acceptable. Yeah. So I don't think that people make I mean, obviously anyone can make excuses about everything, but I think really genuinely some of the things are so hard to ask for that you just wouldn't bother making excuses for how you are, because
It's an inconvenience.
Yeah,
you don't like it or not. Having ADHD or autism or having any neurodiversion can be an inconvenience to your personal life.
Yeah.
So this is why it goes back to your original point of really understanding what to do to improve that.
Yeah.
Different ways, whether that's writing your to-do list.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether that's speak to someone more frequently, whether that's meditation in the morning. Everybody struggles with some kind of mental health issues, or someone might have some kind of neurodiversion. It might be on different scales.
Yeah.
So I do think there's an element of understanding what it is that you have, understanding ways to improve that, but also being open and honest and being able to advocate for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where these are the things that will actually lessen the mental health impact.
Okay.
It will actually lessen the depression, the anxiety. You know, I would get anxious about going to family do's because I have to go and pretend to be interested around people maybe that I don't really want to see today, you know. Or
Claire's like, I don't want to go to grandma's dinner, man. I ain't got time to hear about grandma's gumbo.
You know, but now, so that my family know, I can actually say, do you know what? Can I tell you closer to the time? Instead of before, I was looked at as being ignorant. You know, oh, Claire's just being ignorant. Claire's just being too much, doesn't want to come. You know, let's not ask Claire. Whereas now I can advocate for myself and say, I know you're asking me to come around at Christmas and we're in October, but can I tell you closer to the time? Because I don't know how I'll feel.
I don't know where I'm going to be in 2 months' time.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I even ate yesterday.
Yeah. And I think it is. It gives you, and this is a word I hate saying, but it really is the word. It is that permission. I think we go through life needing permission from other people. And what it is acceptance. People just have to accept the fact that I will change my mind at the last minute. You know, I'll tell my mum I'm not coming round today. And yet equally I can just as much turn up when she's not expecting me. That's life. That's how my life is. I've gone past now trying to conform because
for everybody else.
Yeah. And I'm so lucky in my household with my daughter and my son that they give me that freedom. They laugh at me, you know, oh, mum's still looking for her car keys, you know. Even the dogs don't come to the front door anymore because I walk down to the car, haven't got my car keys, I've got to come back in, so the dog will just sit there and like, oh, you're back again. You know, it's like because it's been safe for me to do in my own home, and I think that's the key part when we're talking about kids. It's been safe for me to basically unmask in my own home. So that's given me the confidence to be able to do it outside, you know, and just to ask. But, you know, asking is the hard part. I'm not going to lie.
one last question. What advice would you give to parents or people that are suffering with ADHD? Like, what can your services do to help? What would you advise them?
Get in touch. Look on my socials. Look on other people's socials. Look at what calls to you, but make sure you're looking at stuff that is positive. You know, don't be looking at that ABBA stuff. We don't agree with changing behaviour. You know, we agree with this is a neurotype, this is a person. How do we support them? You know, if you want advice from me, obviously just DM me and that. You know, therapy, yeah, I do that as well. But, you know, more importantly, be there for your child unconditionally. You know, it is hard for parents. You know, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit there and say that it's easy. It is extremely hard, but you aren't alone. You know, there are support groups out there. There are things you can do to keep yourself regulated as much as your child. You know, and also let's not forget, there's a strong indication that these things are hereditary. So whilst you're looking at your child and their behaviour, consider yourself as well.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
This has been amazing. Can you let everybody know where they can find you and where they can find all of your services?
Yep, I'm at Neuro by Nature Therapy on Insta and Facebook, and it's neurobynature@gmail.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Mek Sense with Melzy. Hopefully, we've kind of made a little bit of sense of ADHD. We might have to do a part 2. So big up all of my ADHD family that are on the spectrum, that are still pushing through life and still getting those dreams, goals and aspirations. Please go find my girl, Claire. She is very, very good in her area of expertise. So do make sure you link in with her if you do want some support and guidance with that. And you know what I'm going to say next? Subscribe now. Like right now, click that subscribe button. I want you to comment below. Let me know how you're finding these topics. Please also remember, I know some of these topics are sensitive, so please make sure you view with discretion. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Mek Sense with Melzy, and we're out for now. Bye.
Bye.